Hello everyone, this is Joe. Welcome to watch the video series from Brainy Body Education about Raspberry Pi, Arduino, and IoT programming. In today's video, I would like to walk you through the steps about how to assemble a smart system that later you can program with and eventually build a system that you can control through your voice. First, I assume you have already purchased the development kit, the SD card, and the Raspberry Pi box from the list I provided. So today we're going to use only part of them, just because to start with, we would like to build a relatively simple system. So first off, let's count all the parts that we're going to use for today's work. Let's start with the Raspberry Pi board. So we are going to definitely use the motherboard from the Raspberry Pi box, and we're going to use the clear case, which has a bottom piece and a top piece. And we are going to use a ribbon, a 40-pin ribbon for the GPIO, which looks like something like this. And we are going to use a breadboard, and also we're going to use a T-shape adapter board from the starter kit. I have a red color one, but you might have a different color, probably blue. And we are going to use two pieces of jumper wires. Both of them are male to male. Okay, you can find them from the starter kit. And we are going to use one LED. Doesn't matter what color. And we are definitely going to use the SD card. And on top of that, we are going to need a HDMI cable from the box of the Raspberry Pi. And we are going to use a power cord from the Raspberry Pi box. Quickly about where to find those parts. Okay, the motherboard for Raspberry Pi, the clear case, top piece and bottom piece, and the HDMI cable, they're all from the Raspberry Pi box. And also the power cord is from the Raspberry Pi box. All other parts, including the ribbon cable, breadboard, the T-shape adapter, two jumper wires, LED, are from the starter kit. And this one is standalone. One thing I would like you to pay extra attention is about the SD card. Raspberry Pi comes along with its own SD card, but that's not the one we should be using, okay? We should be using the one that I ask you to purchase separately for the IoT programming. It is the preloaded Raspberry Pi SD card for IoT programming. It's a customized SD card. It is much easier for you to start use. The original SD card is fine, but it takes quite some time to get it set up, and probably needs some extra experience. So I recommend definitely you have to use the standalone SD card. Okay, make sure you got that one right. Okay, before we start with the assembly, I would like you to get familiarized with the two things. One is the breadboard, the other one is the T-shaped adapter. Let's start with the breadboard. Breadboard essentially it's a piece of plastic that has a lot of holes on it. These holes are organized in the rows and columns, and these holes are connected in a certain way underneath. So we'll get to that part later time, but today I would like you to understand how to identify a specific position or a hole on the breadboard. Okay. If you take a closer look at the breadboard, you can notice these holes are numbered and also marked with letters. So the number here means this is the column 1, column 2, column 5, and column 10. And this is I, a row of I, and this is a row of J, and this is H, this is G, and this is F. And this is A, B, C, D, and E. So the columns are marked by letters. Oh, I'm sorry, the rows are marked by letters and the columns are marked by numbers. Let me give you one example. How do you find the whole of F3? Okay, first you identify the row of F, then you identify the column of 3, which is 1, 2, 3. So this is F3. Okay, then how do you identify E13? Okay, so first you go to row E, which is here, then you go to 13, which is okay, this is a 10, right? 11, 12, 13. So this is whole E13. Okay, I'll give you another example. When I say connect pin F10 with E10, okay, how do you do that? So let's find F10 first, which is F10. Connect F10 with E10, which is E is here. So basically you connect these 2 points, these 2 holes. Okay? Why is this important? Because in the later section of the video, I'm going to ask you to connect 2 holes with jumper wires. For example, I will say connect E16 to F16. Then you need to know where does the jumper wire starts and where does it end. Okay. Now let's talk about another component. That is the T-shaped adapter board. So essentially this one is the adapter that connects the GPIO of the Raspberry Pi to the breadboard. What is GPIO? I'll talk about the later sections, but now you only need to know the one end of the ribbon cable goes to this socket, and the T-shape adapter goes to the breadboard. This is how you connect the Raspberry Pi with all the sensors and actuators and wires on the breadboard. This GPIO T-shape adapter is also called a 40-pin adapter because it has 40 pins. So how to identify each pin? Okay, here's what I do, just for my own convenience. I will call this pin number 1, and this is number 2, number 3, number 4, and it keeps going on. So it has 40 pins in total. So it has 20 pins on the right side, and it has another 20 pins on the left side. So when I say pin number 1 of the T-shape adapter, I mean this pin. Okay? Okay, now we have known enough about the breadboard and T-shape adapter. Let's get started with the assembly. So the first thing is to assemble the T-shape board and the breadboard. So this is probably the most tricky part of the whole process. I want you to get this right, okay? First, identify the first pin of the T-shape board, which is here, and then identify the H1 hole of the breadboard, which is here, okay? This is H and this is 1, all right? This is H1 hole. Make sure you understand this is the position, all right? Then you take the T-shaped board, make sure the number 1 pin of a T-shape, which is here, is inserted into the H1 hole of the breadboard. Okay, then the rest of the pins just follow along. Okay, then you apply a little bit of pressure on top of the board, then you push it down a little harder so that it's mounted to the breadboard securely. Okay, this is what you get after the mounting. Okay, next let's move on to the jumper wires. So next let's take one piece of jumper wire and mount it to breadboard. So now this time we're going to connect A6 to A25. Okay, remember how to identify A6. Roll A is here. A6 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is A6. From A6 to A24, 25. So this is a roll A, 20, 25. Okay, this is 25. Okay, so this is how you connect A6 to A24. Okay, let's do another jumper wire. Okay, this time we are going to connect J17 to J28. Okay, J, this is row J. J17 is here. This is J17. And to J28. Same row, but 25, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, this is how you connect J17 to J28. Okay. Okay, now let's connect one piece of a resistor to the breadboard. So what you do is go to the starter kit, go to the bundle of resistors and find one resistor that's marked 220 ohm. There's quite a few of them, but you only need one. So make sure you got the resistance right. It's 220 ohm. Okay, this is one piece. So basically we need to connect this resistor from C25 to H25. Okay, let's do the A, B, C. This is C25. This is C25, and to the H25, which is here. Okay, so this is the resistor between C25 to H25. Okay. Okay, last but not least, let's mount one LED to the breadboard. So this is the LED, and if you notice, the two legs of the LED, they are in different lengths. One of them is significantly longer than the other one, because one of them is actually positive, then the other one is negative. There's a difference. Okay. Now what we have to do is to connect to the LED from I25 to I28, and the positive end, which is the longer foot, goes to I25, and the other one goes to I28. Okay, let's do that now. So the longer foot goes to I-25, which is here. And the shorter foot goes to I-28. Okay, so this is how you connect from I-25 to I-28. Make sure you got the longer foot in I-25 and the shorter one in I-28. Okay, otherwise it won't work. Pay attention here. Okay, this is it. I think we're done with the breadboard and all the wires. Okay, now let's work on the Raspberry Pi board. So the Raspberry Pi comes in the box as 3 pieces. One is the main board, the other one is the I think this is the top piece of the clear case, and this one is the bottom piece. Okay, first off we have to assemble those 3 pieces together, but before doing that, let's check one thing. Make sure the bottom side or the other side of the Raspberry Pi board does not have the SD card in it. So you have to remove SD card from this slot. Make sure there's no SD card, okay? Otherwise you could damage it. So this is that. And let's mount the main board to the bottom piece of the clear case first. So you find the one that has those 3 slots and you line them up with the motherboard like this, right? Then you place a little bit of pressure on it until you hear a click sound. Okay, and then you mount the top piece to it. Apply a little bit of pressure. Okay. Make sure nothing is stuck, nothing is loose. So after putting those 3 pieces together, we have these pins exposed through the opening of the clear case. These are called GPIO. If you remember, we mentioned this term in earlier part of the video. GPIO is basically how your Raspberry Pi communicates to many of the sensors and actuators and signals. Okay, we'll get back to the GPIO part later. Now let's move on to the preloaded SD card. Okay, this is the preloaded SD card with Raspberry Pi and customized for the IoT program. Okay, what you do is open it from the back, take this one out, and this is a SD card of 16 gigabytes. Okay, hold this one, and the other hand you hold the Raspberry Pi board. Then you go to the SD card slot. So you gently plug in this guy. Okay, push it a little bit until it reaches the end of the slot. Okay, this is how you insert. Make sure when you do that there's no power connected. Okay, otherwise you could damage the SD card. Okay, now we have the Raspberry Pi board assembled. Let's move on with the ribbon cable. Okay, this is the ribbon cable. It's also called a 40-pin ribbon cable for GPIO. Right? There's a specific way how you connect it, so make sure you do it right. So take a look at the ribbon cable. There's a black color on this side, there's other color on this side, and there's a kind of piece that stick out on this end, and there's another one on this side. But basically you want to make sure the black colored cable are on top, and this piece is on the outside. So this is how you connect the ribbon cable to the GPIO port. Okay, make sure this is the way, and you gently plug in, mount the connector to the pins, and gently apply a little bit of pressure. Keep going. If nothing is stuck, keep going until it's securely mounted. Okay, you can actually feel it if it's already securely mounted. Okay. Then let's connect the ribbon cable to the T-shape adapter. Okay. This is the one that we have already put together earlier part. So now we can do is to connect these two pieces together. Right? Basically, you hold this end of the ribbon cable, plug in to the socket, apply a little bit of pressure until it reaches the end. Okay. If you're not able to push it to the end, don't force it. Make sure you got the direction correctly. Okay, next is to connect your keyboard and mouse to the Raspberry Pi. So I have a keyboard and mouse combo. So and it's also wireless. So I only need to plug in this USB adapter to one of the USB port on the Raspberry Pi. So I'm going to do it right now. Okay, so I'm trying to plug in. Okay, so now it's plugged in, and this is my wireless keyboard and the touchpad. Okay, next thing to do is to get the HDMI cable from the Raspberry Pi box and connect it to the TV set. But let's start with the Raspberry Pi. Okay, on this side of Raspberry Pi there's a HDMI cable. You plug in one end to the port here, and the other end goes to your television or your monitor. For example, if I have a monitor here, I can use it. So okay, now my Raspberry Pi is connected to the external monitor. Okay, this is my monitor. After I turn it on, it's blue screen because I have not turned on the Raspberry Pi yet, so there's no signal. If I switch on the Raspberry Pi, we should be able to see the startup sequence in a few seconds. Okay, this is the startup screen of Raspberry Pi. Yeah, it's taking 1 or 2 minutes, but here it is. This is the normal screen. You should be able to see if you did the previous steps properly. Okay, this is your Raspberry Pi screen, and the startup menu and the desktop. So at this moment, if you need to set up the Wi-Fi connection and the remote desktop, please keep watching next video. Thank you.